Welcome back to the Anthony Murphy podcast. Today we are talking to Alexie O Brien. Alexie has over a decade of board-level experience across both commercial, government and not-for-profit. She's worked at major brands like Ozmosis, Lululemon and Lorna Jane, and she's currently a local director at the Local Learning Network. We got Alexie in to talk all things company, brand, business and performance. Very excited to share this episode with you. Stay tuned, it's coming right up. Cameras are rolling, we are recording. Welcome back to another episode of the Anthony Murphy podcast. Very, very special guest with me today. I actually this morning was doing a little bit of research and was going to type up the intro and all that sort of stuff, and I was in your LinkedIn bio and I was like, why am I bothering to type something up? Because everything is there, and I just want to read this out. Like, I haven't actually done this before, but I want to read this out because it gives you a very good indication in terms of the caliber of guests that we have on the show today. So let's get straight into it. So with me on the podcast today, we have Alexie O Brien, who is a profoundly experienced professional business person, and her list of achievements and experience is quite extensive. So here we go. In terms of Alexie, she has a wide range of experience from a board level and also from an executive capacity. I'm just going to run through some of the things here. So Alexie is the co-founder and CEO of Awardly, leading strategic and operational development, and the COO of Tell Me Group, where she's raised $5.5 million worth of capital, developed the group's go-to-market strategy. Prior to that, she was the general manager of Ozmosis, managed the Rip Curl brand, where she achieved $21 million of Christmas sales, the largest in the company's history, as well as delivered 8 complex profit-generating and capital-saving projects, including an $850,000 marketing campaign with 30 million impressions. As Kit and Ace's head of country, she achieved revenue of $6 million in the first year of trade across 10 retail outlets. And she's also had experience as the general manager and financial controller at Lululemon, where she grew revenue from 2 million to 100 million in the first 7 years of operation, opening 30 retail stores across Australia and New Zealand. She has a Bachelor of Commerce, a chartered accountant, and has graduated the Australian Institute's company directors as well. Alexie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Anthony.
So there is so much that we could dive into and unpack there, but we are going to stick to a bit of a time limit today. But I would love you to just give us a little bit of insight into your backstory and essentially, how did you achieve so much? Like, what has got you to this point? Because that is a very, very impressive resume.
Oh, thank you. I started life as an accountant, chartered accountant in tax, and had a really big vision to go travel overseas. And so while I started in professional services, I really wanted to jump into commercial business and use that as a jumping point to go travel, and ended up in London. I lived in Toronto and North Carolina, and started working for a fire protection company that I ended up with for 7 or 8 years. Worked in Bangkok, Thailand, and then made my way home. And I loved the commercial side of business, and moved from fire protection and manufacturing to HR, where I really got an understanding of leadership and the importance of the whole human capital life cycle as a finance person. That was a real eye-opener for me.
Love that.
And then from there, I fell into Lululemon, which was a real game changer, and I think where I really gained my leadership credibility over time. Left finance. We were a $2 million operation when I started, and it was before the IPO.
Yep.
And
can I ask how you fell into Lululemon? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, it was a job that was advertised as a financial controller for a small company that nobody at that point in Australia had heard of at all. Yep. And I applied for the job. I did take a step back from what I was doing, but I really believed in the vision of the business. The fact that it was a personal development brand. It had a very clear purpose-led mission. It was
Yes.
aligned with my personal values.
Yeah.
It was an industry I hadn't really worked in retail, so there was that whole growth opportunity for me.
New and exciting.
Yes, new and exciting. Plus, it was yoga and athletic aligned, which really aligned with me and what I did. Yep. So that's how I fell into it.
Right time, right place.
Very much so.
Yeah.
We did go through the GFC, and very quickly after I joined, had to scale a business back very quickly, or at least right size it and make some changes to the structure of the business. But that allowed us to then, grow. Once we got through that period. And it certainly allowed me, having been in finance, I had to reach out and, really help support the growth of the business, and it really allowed me to learn retail as a business and learn leadership and how to grow a business. Had a really great CEO and mentor, David Lorna, who was a big entrepreneur in Australia.
Yes.
So being able to support him through that growth period was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Excellent.
Yeah.
And that was still fairly early on in your career?
Oh, relatively, yeah. But it certainly awakened a passion for entrepreneurial leadership, being involved in purpose-based businesses as well, and businesses that are interested in growth and how you align a vision and a product for your customers with an internal vision for your people as well.
Yes. And critical things, I think, even more so maybe in business today. Like we see a lot more businesses, and maybe it's just because we're living in a world where you can, promote and distribute this information around, purpose-led businesses a lot more, but it's definitely a very much an increasingly popular way to start a business is to have the why and all the benefits for both the consumer and the people that work for the company, and really have that at the forefront and really just be driving that message, and then people align with that, and then you get growth from that.
Well, Simon Sinek, start with why. People resonate and can connect with why you're doing something more than just the what or the how. And especially for team, they come to work, they're working really hard, having something that they get to believe in and jump out of bed for
100%
every day, and that they're personally aligned with makes a big difference. And I think as a business owner, as a leader in a business, you're going to have tough times. So having that, why you're doing it.
100%.
It is really important.
Why get out of bed in the morning? Yeah,
it helps you get through those tough times when you can just recalibrate and it's why am I doing this again?
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's something that in my business journey as well, I've been very, very conscious of personally, because I just remember my own experiences early on in my life career. But again, having a destination or a career path in place for people that work within the business as well. It's so important because it's quite easy for the business owner to get just have all of their focus on growing the business, making payroll, getting everything done, and then it's, well, I have this team of people here that come into work every day. Their time is just as valuable as mine. Where are they going? What do they want to be doing? What's their future looking like?
Absolutely.
And for myself, I know that it's so important. We're going through a big phase right now of working through career progressions for all of our team here. It's where do you want to go? And it's not just from the business point of view, where do we want you to go in your role? But it's where do you want to go?
Absolutely.
Because we're not kidding ourselves. You're not necessarily going to be working at our company for the rest of your life.
No.
But where do you want to go? Because you're going to get the best out of people when they're happy, they're working towards their goals.
Absolutely.
And it's a snowball effect. Yeah,
absolutely. I think both in most of the businesses I've worked in, Lululemon, Kitten Ace, Ozmosis, board advisor for a great activewear business called Nimble Activewear. It is all about, helping people to understand what their goals and where they're wanting to go, but also what their personal values are, because when you can connect with your team and your employees and what matters to them. It helps you to be able to coach and guide them
100%.
In the role that they're doing, but also to help stretch them, because often as a leader, you're a bit older, you're a bit wiser, you can see potential and capability in people sometimes before they know it or see it or even think that they want it for themselves. And so being able to connect with them and help them grow an awareness of things that are possible outside of what they know really helps you to create an engaged, powerful, high-performance team that allows you to continue to grow your business. But I agree with you. If you can send people off out into the world to follow their own path, it's not just about your business. It's about, well, how are we all actually aware and growing and having these high-performance conversations that actually will impact the world, especially when you're layering in skills like communication and self-development type of skill sets. I think the world will be a better place the more we do that.
We could have an entire podcast just on that topic, but maybe another day. I'd love to talk to you about obviously with your experience in significantly large companies. For the most part, people listening to this podcast, I know are definitely in that SME space.
Yep.
So I'd love you to touch on the difference between business operations, just business in general from an SME perspective, and how that differs to really large $100 million companies. Are there any significant differences? We can often say, I've got my own startup, maybe I'm doing $1 million rev a year, would love to get to X amount, or you look at the really big brands and you go, geez, how can they be so successful? Is there similarities? Is there things that at a small level it's the same in the big level?
Well, all big businesses started out at small at some point. And they all started with a founder who had a vision about a product and a customer that needed that product or that solution. So all businesses started out there at some point in time. So it's easy for big businesses to forget that because employees come and go. But I think that for small businesses, what I'm finding, having now moved to the region, small businesses, the founders, they're extremely hardworking. They do have a very, very clear passion for what they do and commitment to their customers and their team as well. So they're similar.
100%.
So it's just in terms of how they grow, it's often within the SME space, all resting on the founder or the owner. The multi-hat that they need to wear, and how, growing the business, they go through a journey of growth and starting to let go and hiring and that process all the way through of letting go and recalibrating and growing and resetting and
delegating. Yeah, I think that's a great point to make, because again, the company that's doing 100 million in revenue is not run by one person or the CEO doing everything. That's definitely not the case. But I feel like, again, that's a business journey. And for some people, obviously they don't want to be running a 6, 7, 8 figure company, and that's completely okay. But for those who are in business and they do want to be, 2, 3, 10 times bigger than what they are now, or at least they have those aspirations, what would your advice be to them? If they feel like they've hit a bit of a ceiling, and they're just not able to sort of crack to the next level. Obviously, there's many reasons why that might be the case. But just from a personal level, as a business owner, what are some things that they could potentially be looking at to sort of open those doors?
I think one of the first things is, why do you want to grow? Why do you want?
Great question.
Yeah, why do you want to be that big? Is it ego-based thing? Is it something that you are doing to be able to afford or get to a next level or earn more for you or for the people in the business? Is there a need from a product, from a customer perspective?
Great
so
point.
That would be why do you really want that? Is there an opportunity for you to be more profitable in your business at the same size, and is that enough? Is there, because growth just for the sake of growth isn't necessarily good.
So true.
It's got to be profitable. So so I think, making sure that as you're going through that there's definitely the market for what you're wanting to grow into, but it's got to be around you being able to hire to scale.
Yep.
How do you do that well? And then how do you start to put systems and processes in place that aren't, it's not all tied to you as a founder or a couple of key people in your team.
100%. And I think like that's one of the biggest challenges for people too is in that letting go and in delegating and in, trusting your team. And again, so many different ways we could go into that. But I think, from my personal experience, I know that I'm not going to grow a business to where I want to get it doing all the jobs myself. Like I need to hire people who are better at me at what they do in order to be able to get to that next level, right?
Absolutely.
Because, I'm not the best at everything. So I need to be able to hire people who can do a better job for me. And then in terms of like that letting go of control, we're worried, are they going to do a good job? Are they going to upset someone? Are they going to say something that, could cost us money, all that sort of stuff? Again, that comes down to your training, your procedures. You need to build a business that's not, just in your head, but it's something that is tangible that people can follow. And that's where you get that scale and you get that growth.
I think, and it comes back to communication and in that delegation, making sure that they're set up, which is often about you, not them.
Yes.
Setting them up, making sure that there's clear expectations, and that you're not ever giving them enough rope that they're going to go and hang themselves. You're giving them enough rope that they can go and test some things, make some decisions, make some mistakes, because the learning through the making mistakes will be valuable and gold if you can reflect and put in place, okay, well, how do we do it differently next time?
So true.
And often with people, they're going to bring better ideas and more diverse ideas and perspectives than you have. And I think that is incredibly valuable, that diversity and ability for your team to contribute their ideas.
100%. Yeah, and if you can really embrace that, that's where you can often unlock some exponential growth, because all of a sudden, instead of one brilliant mind, you have however many. And that just that just completely changes a business as well.
And it's often in situations where you have constraints around resources, time and financial. That if you allow the team. The creative space, they will actually come up with more innovative ways
100%.
of thinking and doing things that you might not have thought of.
I think Jack Delosa says it all the time. He's like, cash constraint for business is one of the best things you can have.
Absolutely.
Because it just forces you to be better and do better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I worked at Kid and Ace. There was a follow-on company with the Wilson family from Lululemon, and we did have relatively substantial budgets, and it doesn't guarantee success. You've got to have all of the pieces you've got to have the timing right, you've got to have the product align with your marketing message to be able to have success. Just because you have deep pockets and resources, I actually agree with that comment, that quote. It's
it makes you
limiting.
think about where is the dollar best spent, essentially.
Absolutely. And it stops you being innovative and creative and really looking at how do we make a really good business that is profitable and meeting a need and is sustainable and scalable for the long term.
I love that. Would love to also touch on the local business network. So obviously, moving more into that coaching, facilitating space that you are also in, and I think it kind of ties into what we've spoken about already in terms of any why or direction or goals or growth that a business owner wants to have. Myself personally, extremely invested in advisory, mentorship, having somebody else who can share their experiences and also help you get to the next level. That's critically important for me, and I know that's a lot of what you do with the local business network. So tell us about that.
So I'm part of a local business network of trusted advisors. So we support small to medium business owners. So part of my journey now, empty nester, we've moved to regional Victoria, which I love.
Awesome.
Everybody's been so incredibly welcoming. Is how do I start to add back and give back to the community? And so there's a series of experienced people in our network, and it's about supporting local small to medium business owners. The business network does free PR testimonials, but we also support business owners, coaching and mentoring them. What are the 3 big areas that you need to focus on in business to make the right decisions to get to where you actually want to go? And sometimes those small to medium business owners, they haven't even stopped to consider where they actually want to go, why they're doing it. They've really fallen into it, to use that term again. They've fallen into it, and to be able to take a step back and then build some, purpose behind it with a roadmap to allow them to also reclaim their life, because a lot of them are working 60 or 70 hours a week. They're the bookkeeper, they're the marketing manager, they're the technician.
Yes, exactly.
That's a knowing laugh. Yeah.
Yes, very much so, very much so. You get stuck working in it instead of on it, and often that can be to, and again, it depends what your goals are, but often that can be to the detriment of the business as well. Yeah.
So how do we support them to focus on what the high payoff activities will be, rather than the low payoff activities that they can outsource or delegate to other people, and helping them realise what are the decisions and in what order should you do them. So it's incredibly rewarding work, helping young business owners that really have created almost a business by accident and is doing quite well, but they have lost their life.
Yes.
And how do they, create more freedom, more 100%. Money, and gain scale over the long term. So very, very, very rewarding. Plus they have a network of advisors across Australia and New Zealand as well that we can all leverage and share ideas and industry knowledge from as well. So
it's so good. I think a comforting thing for anybody who is out there in business and is potentially feeling a little bit overwhelmed or swamped, or all of a sudden I wanted more freedom, but now I'm just a slave to a glorified job essentially. There is a lot of help out there. There are people like yourself who have lots of experience, and oftentimes it doesn't have to be. It's not necessarily a complete reinvention of yourself or your business either. No. It's all just having someone like yourself.
Small decisions.
Yeah, 100%.
Little tweaks along the way.
Exactly. Yeah. Look at again, look at the why. Look at how you're doing things. How can we optimize things? And again, it's not making big changes or completely changing things.
Yep.
It's just, hey, let's get this more aligned to what your vision and your goals and your purpose is. So that if it was starting a business to have more freedom and flexibility, and now it's the complete opposite, what can we do to slowly transition that? Because it is completely possible. And at the end of the day, business is a skill essentially.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Is it something that you can be taught?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people have an innate sense of desire to grow with a healthy risk profile.
Yep.
Whereas other people have fallen into it and they've had a technical skill and they wanted to, or they haven't had a choice. They've had to run it as a business to stay employed.
Yep.
And then they've had to learn all of the skills along the way, like the finance and cash flow and reporting and hiring and, performance management and growing people and strategy and marketing.
Exactly. We're not born with all of that.
No. Yeah. But there are also things that are so specialised that it's not worth jumping into, so like digital marketing, for example, it changes so much and it's such a specialised skill, and there's, that's one component of marketing.
Yes.
And you can do a very basic job and get reasonable results, but if you're a product-based business or a service-based business that's trying to reach a broader audience, leveraging specialists for things
100%
that are specialised skills is also going to help you move the needle forward. Bookkeeping, accounting, tax, that kind of stuff as well.
Love that. And I think that's extremely true. One of my personal advisor, Brett, he has a saying that rings true to me day in and day out. You need to ask yourself the question, who, not how. as a business owner. Because if you're constantly asking yourself, how do I get more revenue, or how do I do this, all that sort of stuff, you need to switch it to who can help me do it.
Yep.
From a perspective of who do I need on my team who can help me do this better, or who do I need to engage as a mentor, an advisor, a coach to help me get to that next level.
Absolutely.
Right? So just keep asking yourself who, because the more you ask yourself how, you've got a ceiling, you've got a limit, you've got a capacity, you can only do so much. So start to look externally.
And then also focus on, what is your skill set that only you can do?
100%.
And that you love doing.
Yeah.
Because the more you can focus on what you love doing and why you did it, and, doubling down on that.
That's right.
Delegate everything else or outsource it.
Yes.
The better off the business will be.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
Love that. What I would love to do, Alexie, is get your perspective on the current business landscape. We're coming towards the end of 2021. Things are starting to open up, and we don't have to go into the whole COVID conversation, but would love to get your perspective on just what the general business landscape is like. Let's just keep it in Australia-based at this point. And do we have lots to look forward to as we head into 2022?
It's a crystal ball. Like who would know? Like we thought, heading into 2021
was going to be so much better.
But I do think with the vaccines here now, we've reached. We won't be going back. Hopefully to lockdowns. I think it's about figuring out how do we stay open. It is incredibly complex for business owners, especially business owners that have customer-facing staff. It's incredibly complex and challenging. I do think that people are going to be a little, keen to go overseas, but probably they're not going to be rushing to go overseas. So the ability to holiday and spend money in Australia will continue to be there. Yep. From personal experience, we're trying to build a house. And I think that the building industry is
good luck.
going to be busy for, I heard, 3 to 5 years.
That's crazy.
I don't want to predict that, but I think it certainly is challenging in the building real estate space. All aspects of it are quite tight. From an e-commerce space, I think that people are, in Australia, we're a little bit late to the party with e-commerce as an overall percentage of our purchasing. I think people are a lot more used to that way of working, and I think shopping will always have that experiential component to it that will always be here, but I think people are a little bit more comfortable, and I don't think that will go back to the way it was before.
No, exactly.
So I think that's something that business owners should continue to invest in, is how do they have their online presence and their online offerings available, and continuing to invest in that space.
Yes, 100%.
I think also just how do they keep their staff safe as an obligation of business owners as well going forward.
And it can be quite challenging. Again, the whole COVID situation is another layer on top of all the complexities that make up business as it is currently. But then again, you do have I suppose that also brings back and ties in with what we've been talking about, is being able to, free up some of your time. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if there's so much stuff to keep on top of, it's like, right, well, what can I do to create more space for myself?
Yep.
What can I do to improve what we're doing, as a business, look after our staff, all that sort of stuff. So incredibly important question, but,
I think the last thing I'd like to add is, they're talking about the Great Resignation coming up as well. So I think the important thing for businesses in the next 6 to 12 months is focusing on your people. And team, and what matters to them. How do you keep them happy and engaged, and having starting dialogues with them, making sure that what matters to them. Are they happy? Are they fulfilled? The more you can be in those conversations, the more you'll be able to create not a loyalty, but just a real dialogue with them, and think about the things that you can do to add value and keep them engaged. Because it's a tight employment economy out there.
We have several clients in the recruitment space, and even just our general clients in our portfolio. Everybody's struggling for
people,
qualified
good people.
Yeah, 100%. So
yeah.
Look after your people.
Exactly.
People.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Alexie, thank you so much for your time. Would love to get you back on the podcast at some stage in the future, because there's definitely a lot more that we could dive into. In the meantime, how can people best get in touch with yourself?
They can email me at Alexie O Brien, Alexie O'Brien at tlbn.com.au. Otherwise, I'll pop a website.
Yes, we'll have all the details in the show notes. 100%. Yep. Fantastic. Alexie, once again, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Well done, and I hope you
first
have
podcast done.
Yes, first podcast. First of many, I'm sure. Maybe we'll see. But thank you for your time.
Thanks, Anthony.
So that's it for another episode. Thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. If you love the show, the greatest form of feedback you can give is to leave a review. It helps the show grow, it helps more people find it, and I would really appreciate that. Head over to anthonygmurphy.com, where you'll find all the show notes and links for today's episode. And if you just want to stay up to date with me and see what I'm up to, head over to Instagram, Anthony G. Murphy, and say g'day. And I will talk to you in the next episode.